So good afternoon one and all. I Pooja Kalange, Assistant Professor IICMR MCA, welcome you to Webathon 2020, an assemblage of webinar series hosted by Institute of Industrial and Computer Management and Research IICMR Pune. This series adopts a timely and on your mark theme: engage, explore and empower. DevOps is a set of practices that combines software development and IT operations. It aims to shorten the system's development lifecycle, that is SDLC, and provides continuous delivery with high software quality. DevOps is considered to be complementary with the Agile model. So, we at IICMR are here to unleash the learning journey through our webinar series, Webathon 2020. Just a couple of instructions before we begin. Please keep yourself mute in order to avoid any distractions due to noise. Also keep your videos off too. You can see a chat box icon at the upper left side of the screen, so you can use this chat box during the question answer session. So now, without taking much time, I would like to introduce you with our today's convener, Ms. Vandana Pednekar, Assistant Professor, IICMR MCA. Ms. Vandana Pednekar is ME and PhD pursuing, having 13 plus years of experience in academics. She is expert at administration of education related activities towards organization, program and syllabus management. She has presented and published technical articles and papers in 7 international and 3 national level symposiums. She has also published 4 books for academic courses under SPPU Pune. She has also participated in 15 plus seminars and workshops at national and international level. So, I call upon Ms. Vandana Pednekar, Assistant Professor IICMR MCA, to introduce us with our today's presenter, Mr. Amol Dhanpalwar, Technology Architect, Sears Holding India. Over to you, Vandana ma'am. Vandana ma'am?
Yes. Thank you, Pooja, for this warm introduction. Good afternoon, one and all. I, Miss Vandana Pednekar, welcomes you all for today's talk 8. It's my great privilege to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Amol Dhanpalwar, Technology Architect at Sears Holding India. Amol has more than 15 years of experience in industry. He has worked with companies like Xerox Technologies, Cinecron, IBM, and R System. And currently, he is working with as a technology architect at Sears Holding India. His technical expertise includes Java and SQL. I request Mr. Amol Dhanpalwar to guide students on DevOps, Unleash the Digital Experience. Over to Amol.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for the brief introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Generally, IICMR family knows me on different technical talks. My major expertise is in Java related any technologies, like cloud, Java, J2E, and any upcoming new frameworks and all. Being technology architect, I mainly involved into different Java evolutions and getting those incorporated in our projects. So in current profile, before I start anything, I'd like to give you a brief. Like I'm working with Sears Holdings, which is a 135-year-old retail company in US. We have lot of stores and online presence in US. So similar to Amazon.com, similar to that, we do have our own website, and I'm mainly involved into the checkout process of our e-commerce business. So anything comes under checkout, design and implementation, I am one of architect which is responsible for that layer. Okay, so that's a minor brief about my profile and my current role. So generally, what I said, like IICMR family knows me for my technical talks. I have given so many technical, brief sessions to the IICMR family, being IICMR alumni and the second best student. I used to visit and give that, but today the topic is altogether different than the technology. It's all about process, which generally at student life, including me, everyone hates to. We always ignore to the process and always pro to the learning technologies, different languages, different infrastructure things or tools and all, but we always try to ignore the process. So here I just wanted to make sure that everyone equally emphasize on process, because the moment you step into the companies, moment you step into the uh, corporate world, your technology definitely makes a difference, but at the same time your maturity with the process also makes a huge difference in your overall project execution. Okay, so that's why the topic what we have decided for today is DevOps, because agile is very much stabilized in our industry, and now we are moving with the concepts called DevOps. Basically, DevOps is, though I'm talking about DevOps, you know, current trend is not even DevOps. We are going beyond DevOps, and now it is SecDevOps. Okay, so we may talk on SecDevOps sometime later. So to understand SecDevOps, one should be well aware of or acquainted with DevOps first. So the topic today is DevOps, which is actually a process, nothing technology. Okay, we may have some tools to support this process, but it's more about a process. Hope everyone is with me. You guys can see my screen? Can someone confirm?
Abul sir, can you make the slideshow?
Yeah.
Yes, now
Okay.
it is visible. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. So it's visible to everyone? Good. So the topic is introduction to DevOps. We are just trying to brief about what DevOps is, which basically Sonali ma'am has very well explained you. That's what the DevOps is. I'm not going to tell you even anything beyond that, but I'll just try to elaborate it so that you guys can understand. Okay, so the agenda for today's session is simply what is DevOps, then why we need DevOps, addressing delivery challenges, agile versus DevOps, how it is connected, and when to adopt, when not to. Okay, very crisp and simple agenda. So DevOps, which is basically what Sonali ma'am has explained, it is nothing, no new line in it. It is what that is, right? That's what the book definition is. DevOps is a combination of development and operation. Is a software development method that stresses communication, collaboration, and integration between software developers and information technology professionals. So you may have a question here, right? Does that doesn't mean that software developers are not part of information technology professionals, IT professionals? They do part of it, but generally in corporate, IT profs are basically a ops guys. Okay, the one who maintain the infrastructure, who make sure all L1 L2 kind of tickets, basically L1 90% of the time. So those are basically called as IT guys. Okay, and developers are never treated as they are called as always engineers, software engineers. Okay, so that is a little difference, but nowadays coming DevOps into picture, there is no difference now. Okay, that's why we said here IT professionals thereby. This enables a rapid evolution of a product and a service. Though since you guys know that agile is the standard practice today across the industry, agile, test driven development, and those are mainly focusing on rapid evolution of your product, rapid evolution of your service. So that means there are multiple releases, multiple changes, and going to be accommodated in a spiral kind of model. So that need a rapid evolution, right? So that's one reason. Then reduce risk, improve quality across portfolio, and reduce the cost. Okay, that's pretty much what DevOps is. Okay, DevOps is integration targets products delivery, quality of testing, feature developments, and the maintenance release in order to improve the reliability and security and the faster development of a development cycle. So if you see all these things, the DevOps integration targets, like when I say I want to implement or integrate a develop DevOps process in my development, the target is product delivery, quality of testing, then feature development, then maintenance of a release in order to improve the reliability. I mean, after every release, my product, my service needs to be more stringent, more reliable, okay, and more secured. And that whatever development I am doing, that should be faster enough. Okay. Then the adoption of DevOps is being driven by a few factors. Those factors are like use agile and other development process and methodology. Agile also again talks about collaborative development and an iterative development where we will have repetitive releases, and the frequency of releases more higher than the normal SDLC processes. Then demand on increased rate of production release. Exactly, that is what is aligned to what agile is, right? And from application and the business stakeholders. So that helps, like you are giving small chunks releases to the business and the stakeholders, and which is making sure, like with all these small chunks, we are making sure that the product or the service is reliable, secure, and sturdy enough. Wide availability of virtualized and cloud infrastructure for internal and external providers. Now, since you guys know, like most of the things are going on cloud, because we don't want to maintain anything in-house or creating our own data centers and maintaining all that. We go with infrastructure as a service most of time. So in that case also is it plays a vital role. Then increased usage of data center automation and configuration management tools. So whenever we do any changes or whatever the data center managements are, those are going as an automations. Automations are focused to manage all these. Earlier, if you go 5 years back era, it all was like manual processes. Slowly we got into multiple orchestrating automated tools. I'll talk about those tools at the end, but all those emphasize focused on doing minimal manual work and doing major through repetitive work can be automated and done through some kind of script, some kind of tool, using some tools or so. And then the configuration managements. So all these processes, basically all these factors drives the DevOps adoption. So what we want is, we want all, basically if I want to revise all these 4 factors, first is agile development, where we want everyone to be collaborating in my development process. So if you talk about agile being pure developer, what we used to say like my business owner talks with developers and make sure they will have, my product owner and my developers, everyone will have their own interaction with my scrum meetings, and we'll make sure that what business wants, we are delivering it, right? So major collaboration, we focused over developers and the business stakeholders basically. Whereas that even tells you that this is a collaborative development, right? So the collaborative development one happened is with your business tech, but there is another angle of it. That is my IT team, ops team. Okay, we need to have the collaboration happen with IT team as well. Since see, whenever there is a release, see, generally in corporate, when we talk about teams, what we have is like, we have one team who develops the software, and we have other team who will make sure that my infrastructure is up running, and there is 99.99% of uptime. So that makes sure that my customers, my stakeholders are not impacted. Okay, both things were not done by same team. So what happens whenever developers used to do any development, when that moves into production, that is productionization of your release. Okay, what happens is there used to have some hand holding with operations team. Okay, in this release, what all things are going? Okay, what that make a difference on my daily monitoring? Is there a new API introduced? Okay, so do I need to monitor that separately? So everything has to be hand over to operations team post the development is completed. And then operation teams make sure that with all new features, none of the existing features are getting impacted. What is there any impact analysis they need to perform? So there was lot of hand holding to and fro things used to happen during the release with operations team and development team. And the only reason is there was no collaboration while we are developing this feature. Okay, one thing. Second, since our releases are increased, suppose we are getting these releases with adoption of agile, what we want is we want to release it in a very small frequency of 2 weeks of spikes, release cycle, or 3 weeks of release cycle. Major organization follows 2, and many organization follows 3 weeks of release cycle. Now what I told you, there is a no collaboration between ops team and dev team, and now on every release I need to give all these details and have a to and fro communication with them. Tell me, if I want to do a release on 2 weeks or 3 weeks of cycle, how tedious job it is. So what we need to make sure to make it more reliably done is, during my development we should involve, or we should do a collaborative work with operations teams as well. So that will avoid lot of to and fro at my release time. Okay, then of course cloud like infrastructure, infrastructure as a service things has been started using. So there we do need ops teams collaboration, because we may have external vendors, we may have external providers which we are consuming in our services. So whatever the impact of our development, that has again an impact on my cloud infrastructure. And on top of it, what all data centers we have, automation tools, configuration management, everything we are adopting, so that to make our ops teams life easy. But on every development we have to make sure that there is no impact on my automation, there is no impact on my configuration management, and if it is, then that has to be taken care. Correct. So all these automation scripts, automatic configuration management tools has to be addressed during my development cycle. That is why ops involvement during development, or collaboration with ops team and development team, is very much important. Okay, hope everyone understood what DevOps is. So our next is principles of DevOps. Next topic. Okay, there are 3 principles on which DevOps actually stands: is develop and test in an environment similar to production. Okay, so this is the first thing what every development team has to follow, because there are many environment related challenges that dev team never have faced. Okay, but it happens only on production. If you have any friends, any links who are in corporate, this is a very common issue. They can tell you, like, hey, it never happened on my machine, it is a production issue. Why? Because whenever they test it, they never tested on an environment which is similar to production. Okay, so every time whenever we make a release, we need to make sure that we develop and test into the environment which is very similar or a replica of my production. Then deploy builds frequently. The frequency of build needs to be increased, because the frequency is increased, it means my changes are minimized. Minimum changes will go. And if changes are minimum, then we can have better control on the impact. And validate operations quality continuously. Of course, since my changes are minimum, it automatically easy to validate whatever the changes are going are of good quality. Why DevOps delivery is a challenge basically. Okay, so what happens here is we have a customer. Based on customer or business, we have some requirement gathering. Okay, and based on that requirement gathering, developers develop a system or service or a product and test it, and then they hand it over to ops team. So in all these process with requirement gathering, customer discussion, developing or enhancing a feature, ops team was never into picture. Okay, and we just dump the application on them and give a KT kind of thing, a small KT where they will get understood like how to manage this on an infrastructure level, and that's it. So since they are not involved in all these processes, since there is no collaboration, there is always a gap with our product or a service understanding to the operations team. Okay, so why these gaps are? Dev view, basically most delivery features after testing in development system. They deliver just deliver it in their system. I mean, they just test it in their development systems. Then dev systems may not be same as production systems, which is always a problem. Then developer will have faster turnaround with respect to feature. Yes, because they have developed this code, they have in and out knowledge of that code. Correct. Then not much concerned about the infrastructure as well. Deployment impact because of the code change. So whenever I develop, generally what happens is if he's a Java developer, he thinks about his own code, like whether I am getting this output or not. But no one checks about the performance of this API. Thus, this performance may impact on some timeout somewhere. So that may be a cascaded impact to an API. Suppose I have developed one API, okay, and that API or that particular chunk of code is responding me within time, but that API is not being called by any of the end customer. End API may be something else, and the cascaded API is what I have developed. Okay, but my end API has to be responded within given time frame or my timeout interval. But my cascaded API, which I have developed, I have never considered my parent API. What is the timeout of my parent API? What my focus was to complete my API, because I am a developer, I have that much of visibility. So such kind of issues, such kind of scenarios, developer will never have that view, or they never focus to. And DevOps is actually here to make sure that you do that. It's not about what chunk of code you are doing, what is the cascaded impact on your system or a service. Okay, if you go with the ops view, what ops views mostly consider is they more worry about PSR, proactive service resolution. How quickly I can resolve the issue. Tell me that. I don't want what you have done. If there is an issue, how I can sort it, just tell me that. What they want is SOP, standard operating procedures. Okay, then they are mainly rewarded on uptime, because they don't, I mean, being ops team, they are a custodian of that application, and that their job is never your application or a service should go down. That has to be 99.99% up. So they are rewarded on basis of uptime of your system. Then lesser turnaround with respect to feature, because they don't have understanding of your code, your knowledge, your requirement. So if there is some issue, like someone says, hey, I'm not getting the response as expected, so most probably they may take some more time to understand, because they may need to revisit a knowledge base created by developer about that particular API, and then they go with the flow scenario, jot down, and then understood, oh, okay, because of this it may happen. Whereas if it comes to developer has gone through all the requirement phase, all the documentation phase, knowledge based phase, so they are aware of everything about in and out of that feature. So response time for developer is more quicker than any ops team. Then very much concerned about the infrastructural as well as deployment impact because of any code change. They never think about what feature we are releasing. They always think about what is that impact on my infra, will that impact on my deployment, Is that change is more make any issues on my uptime? Their focus never about what feature we are giving, how enriched product we are doing. Okay, they always focus on how can I make sure whatever I get is up and never go down, and is it aligned to what my infrastructure is. And to honestly, both things are very important. So when a developer is doing, he will always focus on enriching his product, giving more and more features and facilities which are more useful for my customer, end user, or business type. Whereas upstream will always focus on how can I keep it more active, more uptime, will with no infrastructural challenges. PSR is very good for every request coming in. So both the things are very important to make your service more successful or your product more successful. But now if you took the views, there are gaps, and those gaps has to be filled. And to fill that, we have to adopt the DevOps process. Hope everyone is in with me and no one has any doubt. If anyone has any questions, doubts, please raise your hands, or one can tell me if anyone has doubts or questions. You can post to chat or raise your hands. That they can do, right, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Actually, they'll be having question answer session after your session is being completed, sir.
Okay, not in between. See, because it's a theoretical lecture, little okay, and they if they have anything to be elaborated here itself, they can raise a hand and you can convey me.
Okay, sir. Students, as per Amol sir's request, if you have any questions in between, you can just post it in the chat box. Okay? Okay, sir. You can continue, sir.
All right. Thank you. Now, when I say DevOps, so we have talked about, we have seen the dev view, we have seen the ops view. But when we say DevOps, these all things can be achieved. One, developer work with ops to understand the impact of code change. Okay. Then developer now work more closely with production equivalent systems. So that also makes sure that there is no infrastructural challenges, there is no cascaded impacts of my change and all. Okay, developer focus on matrix required by ops team like PSR. Okay, now ops now have more clarity about the infrastructural needs. Okay, more automation on deployment, closely monitor the dev, test, and prod pipeline for each deployment and immediate feedback. What pipeline here is? It is nothing but it's called CI/CD, continuous improvement and continuous deployment. So that process, entire process is called pipeline. Okay, so this is the latest trend what we follow in our development life cycle. Like we have pipeline defined for development environment, we have pipeline defined for our prod replicas, and then the prod. So what happens whenever user or a developer does any code change, those code change goes into your repo, okay, and then pipeline gets triggered. Oh, there is a change in code. All right, build it. Okay, once build it, deploy it. Where to deploy? Okay, it's a development change. Go to development environment and deploy. So developer does his sanity and thinks that yeah, his feature is okay. Now he wants to check whether my feature is good for my prod replica or not. Sometimes we may say it's pilot environment. Okay, so he just need to trigger a next pipeline called prod replica, and now your code will be moved from development environment to a prod replica. So in prod replica, he again do the sanity and checks, okay, is it aligned to what my productionized requirement, whether it is aligned to what my production environment, infrastructure, and all the deadlines which has been, all the time frames which are optimization required at that particular environment level. So all those things can be monitored and done. Then better collaboration and the communication with development and operations team. So all those things, can easily managed with the DevOps process, where developers and operations teams are collaborating and working closely. I'll give you a simple real-time example on it. Okay. More just almost 13, 14 months back, we started implementing a DevOps process in our application. And now we are DevOps team. We are very closely working with ops team, with understanding, uh, and every releases are in collaboration with them. Okay. So while doing that, what happened, like, here, if you see point number where we have matrices. Yeah, point number 3. Developer focuses on matrices required by ops team like PSRs, proactive service recovery. Okay, so what happens? There are multiple matrices we generate. Okay, there are multiple ways to develop or implement those metrics. If you are using clouds, then there is a cloud watch from where we can do this. If you are doing your own, or within your data center, there are multiple tools, graphite tools, which helpful for capturing any matrix. Capturing any matrix means what? We have, being a product, being a service, we have a lot of endpoints or APIs exposed, correct? So every API, every endpoint, or in short, when you go through the pages, every page response time for you. Simple word. Like when someone, suppose I'm talking about e-commerce site. So how many requests per second coming for a PDP and a product detail page? Like you may have any number of any kind of product, but you are hitting a product detail page. So every second, how many requests I am getting? Okay, what is my response time for that product detail page request? How many timeouts I am seeing for product detail page? Okay, how many requests are stuck, basically timed out, or how many errors we found during product detail page? Okay, likewise, there are many things happening, right? For every request, you may have, you may need to capture the performance of that request. You may need to capture the load of that request and everything. So all those things can be achieved through many implementations. Okay, so if we do infrastructure on cloud, we have readily available Amazon services, managed services called CloudWatch, through which we can do this. And if we do our data centers and all, then there are multiple tools like Graphite and all, through which we can do this. It's a very simple configurations. If we just incorporate that configuration to our endpoints, it starts capturing the matrices. Okay, and those are shown in graphs. So if you see any operations, data operations, operations teams, war rooms we say generally, or desks, you see multiple screens are going on that, multiple graphs, peaks, ups and all those going on. That's basically nothing but the capturing the matrices, and these people keep a watch on it. Okay, so while they are doing it, they do found like, okay, there is an error. Okay, they see a error count increased. Now what they want is why this error has increased, whether to development team is to involved in it or not. I know that there can be an incident, there can be a complaint registered by a user, and then people may create a ticket for this, do analysis, and then goes whether it need a technical involvement or not, and the basis of that ticket become P1, L1 to L2, L2 to L3, and kind of. Okay, so this is how it goes. Like L1, it is like system infrastructural issue. They fix it. L2, it needs little kind of technical understanding and the functional understanding. And L3 and L4 kind of tickets are like L3, L4 always goes to dev team, where they need to find out why this bug is. There may be a bug with your feature or an issue with your code. Okay, so those always goes to development team. So what happens here is how you define that it is a L3 issue or a L2 issue. L1 is very clear that there may be some server went down or something like that. But there is a very thin layer between L2 and L3. Okay, when you want a development to be involved and to be part of this fix to be part of release or not. So to do that, they need little more understanding about the logs. They need to get into deep dive into the logs, right? And while we are working with ops team very closely and collaboratively, we had a discussion many times. Like, hey, we got such kind of error, but we have no provision to go in detail of this particular logs. And that is where what we have done is like we have implemented ELK stack for our ops team. So what I have done there is like we have implemented Kibana stack, where we have set up one elastic cache where my application logs will be pushed on that cache, and there is a ready-made UI available, Kibana. Okay, and that Kibana will have simple query, like you write a query for SQL. Similar to that, you can write a query on logs. Okay, minor normal log file, and you can write a query on that log file. Like if I get such pattern for such trace or for such error kind of thing, you can just write a query and trigger it, and you will see the detailed log of that particular instance. Okay, so there are multiple tools like that which are readily available, and this is free. So what I did is like I have get this ELK stack apps downloaded, all these jars, get certified from my security team, and took some space on our internal data center and deployed this. After doing this, my ops team's life went very easy, because any ticket came, just take the user ID, put that user ID, take that particular time frame when they found that particular issue, and just go jump into the logs. And okay, what happened? There was an error. What kind of error? Okay, so and so error. They can add that so and so error in their query. Immediately they get the exact issue what happened at that time through our logs, and they were able to demark whether this issue was a real issue. Is it an infrastructural issue? Is it a code related issue? Is it a scenario specific issue? And all that. And with that, lot many tickets are getting sorted at ops level at very quicker way. And this was possible until date. What happens is like there were a lot of tickets issues coming from ops to development team, getting into our backlog, and we were also spending lot of time, and by the time it reached to us, it takes almost 10, 12, 15 days, right? So by that time we would have lost the logs also, because no one keeps the application logs for more than 15 days. Why should one will take that, right? So when that comes to dev team, hey, it is no more reproducible. I'm not able to see what exactly happened to that particular user because there is no logs for that particular user. Correct. But now DevOps team was doing all that job, capturing all the required logs, what happened that time. They put into that particular ticket and push it to our product owner. Okay, this may be a bug, this may be a feature issue, this may be a scenario specific issue. And now development team is also in better position to understand what was happened to that particular customer. Okay, that may be the scenario, this may be the scenario. Now we can reproduce that scenario and fix it. Okay, and that makes our system, our service, our product more sturdy. Okay, this is how this collaboration helps. Hope you understand the real-time scenario what I am trying to explain. Okay, now addressing the delivery challenges. Biggest challenge is release management. Better understanding of risk, dependency, and compliance issue. Whenever there is a release, all those things has to be taken care of. With CI/CD, all those things are handled in automated way nowadays. Okay, there are code pipelines set for AWS applications. We can do that through Jenkins for our on-premise like own data centers. Release deployment coordination for what? Making better tracking of your discrete activities, faster escalations of an issue, documented process control, and granular reporting, like what is going in this release notes, granular reporting of it. Then any issues happen with my release, what all my escalation points are, how to roll back the application, all those things. And coordination is needed with ops team and our dev team. Then the release deployment automation. We all this can usually achieve using automations with Jenkins and code pipeline in AWS or similar technologies in Azure and GCP. Usually we have existing automation, but want a flexible manage and drive. The automation can be invoked by non-operations resource in specific non-production environment. So you can just think what I have explained you some time back, that we can have CI/CD set up for dev, non-prod, and prod, whereas dev and non-prod can be managed through a non-ops team, whereas when it goes to production, that can be managed by operations team. Their development team never comes into the picture. So there, when we say like, okay, this is a prod ready, we need to have the test result done on non-prod, which is a prod equivalent environment, and make sure that it is working fine. So in all those things, what we need is, we need a highly collaborative way to work, extensive discussions, communications with the release team, and ops team and the dev team for any deliveries or any releases. So while you are addressing it, what we do is like test deploy. First, do all those things on non-prod and make sure your non-prod, which is a prod replica, is completely fine. So generally, nowadays, if I go with AWS, there is called far-gated deployments, okay, and far-gated environments. And that environment has his own strategy called a blue-green. What that blue-green means? My current production is always green, okay, and now I create a pre-prod environment which is equivalent to production, okay, and it is also on demand. And now my development deliveries will be deployed on my pre-prod, that is prod replica, and we have our automation script, test scripts executed on those non-prod or a prod replica environment, and make sure all test suites are running fine and all results are as expected, all metrics are populated, and there is no impact, okay, that becomes blue. That means that yes, this release I can promote to production, okay, and then there is just a manual trigger required which tells that now it can start picking my production traffic, which is actually my release date. We generally do it on our release date. So the moment you picked up, what I am telling you is all AWS automation, okay. So that blue will become green, okay. Now my green, which was my previous prod, that becomes blue and backed up for any time frame which I take. Like, okay, maximum is 2 days. I can keep my previous production environment as a backup environment for 2 days max. Okay, till 2 days we will see, okay, after my deployment, once my entire traffic started picking up, I'm not seeing any issue. It means that I don't need a backup environment and that environment will go down. Okay. And if you see any issues during these 2 days, we just need to switch and my blue, which is a previous prod, will become a prod, and this goes down. Okay. That is called blue-green strategy, which is automatically available in AWS with the far-gated deployments. Okay, now suppose I want to do same thing with data centers which I have. Okay, it's not AWS managed, it's not a managed service. I have to do it. So, we do have, like, we are into process of migrating into AWS. Our few of services are in AWS and few are still in our private DC, and they are in process of migration. So what we have there is, we have two equivalent production environments. We generally say site A and site B. Okay, and we have one global VIP, which is called a production VIP. Okay, Now what happens? Site A and site B has multiple servers. See, it's a cluster basically. Okay. So in this cluster, what we have is like site A, site B, and one at a time is pointed to our global pointer. Okay. Suppose my site A is production. So any request from external environment comes to my global VIP, and global VIP will divert all those requests to site A. Okay, and site B is under construction because there is my release going on. So what happens is we deploy, and it is a production replica. Okay, it is the environment is exactly same what my other production environment is. So what we do is we deploy, we test, and while we are testing, we have a separate pointer which is called a pilot pointer, which points to my B site. Okay, and keep doing testing internally by our test teams, by our automation test environments and all that. And the moment we thought like, okay, all my automation scripts are fine, all my manual test looks good on my pre-prod environment, that is my site B, which has new release. Okay, the moment I say, okay, my site B is perfect, what I need to do here now is my global VIP needs to point site B instead of site A. Okay, all requests are coming to my global VIP. Now global VIP will start pointing site B. So there is no zero downtime, right? Because for end customer, they are always pointing to my global VIP. Okay, internally global VIP says, okay, now switch to site B. This makes sure that during release, I'll have 100% uptime. Okay, now site B becomes my production, whereas site A becomes my backup replica. The moment we start taking real-time organic traffic to my site B, we can monitor for whatever long time we want, and till that we will not do a next release deployment on site A. And site A will act like a backup plan. If at all anything happen, if I want to roll back my release, what I need is I just need to change my global pointer back to site A, and that's all. So for end customer, there is no downtime, unless few may face some issues because of new release. They may get some bad responses. Otherwise, there is no downtime for switching a release. Okay, and this is how it happens in our clustered environments. Okay, that is a test and deploy process where we have extensive collaboration with our ops team and dev team. Now we talk about agile versus DevOps, how it is connected. Agile's focus was to fill the gap between your business stakeholders, that is what gives you a requirement, and the dev team, which actually completes that dev requirement and build the services. Okay, so to bridge that gap, we have an agile process, okay, that addresses the gap between customer requirement and dev and testing team. Okay, cross-functional teams to design, develop, and test features, stories, priorities by product owner, PO. Okay, and focus more on functional and non-functional readiness. Okay, that is what agile is. Now, when you say DevOps, it addresses the gap between dev, test, and ops. That is automated release management, mainly automated release management. Focus on functional and non-functional plus operational and business readiness. Till date, until ops come into picture, we never thought about operational and business readiness. Okay, so if you see developer, what all responsibility he has? See, cross-functional with agile, he has to involve in cross-functional teams and design, develop. He has to involve with the test teams to make sure everything or his test requirements are fulfilled, features, stories, and priorities when it talks about requirement. But when it goes to operations, he also need to be acquainted with operational and business readiness as well. Okay, So actually a developer is involved in entire cycle now here until it goes on production in the stabilized way. It intensifies the reusability of an automation. Basically, all these processes are automated to make sure. But though the processes are automated, the focus is on non-functional operations, operational and the business readiness. Okay. This is basically a extend as an continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD. Okay, so every small change will get build, test, deploy, build, test, deploy. So similarly here, in case of Agile, build, test, and prioritize, build, test, and prioritize. Any new change, build, prioritize it, design it, develop it, test it. This is the Agile cycle. So after this test, move into pre-prod environment, test it, deploy it. Sorry, move into pre-prod environment, that is deploy it, test it, deploy it, and test it. So every new change you have to design, develop, test, and once it is tested, deploy to pre-prod, again test. And in that, this is again a continuous process, and this needs a continuous feedback across. Clear? Now, when to adopt and when not to adopt? Big question, but very simple answer. For e-commerce and other websites like Amazon, Flipkart, Groupon, and the cloud platform, if it is there, you need to adopt the DevOps. You have to be worked in very collaborative way. Whereas something like mission critical applications like power systems, banks, where changes itself, a product owner is very stringent to change. Okay, systems are very stable. Change needs lot of things. So that time, all those are mission critical applications, and no, we don't do a frequent changes. Then there is no need to adopt DevOps. Whereas if there is a extensive, small release cycle, like if you adopt Agile, you should adopt DevOps. Simple. Because Agile tells you that we'll have release cycle of 2 to 3 weeks. It means that you will have quicker releases, major changes. No, you will have changes frequently. So wherever the change frequency is increased, you need a major DevOps collaboration. Okay, and especially cloud platform, which basically provides infrastructure as a service or a platform as a service. There we use multiple tools to achieve this, and that also needs a lot of coordination and collaboration with dev and operations team. Okay. Okay, so all this is the process till now. So to achieve this process, we have lot of tools readily available. What we need is to use those tools properly, and this DevOps get implemented. Okay, so those tools will play in multiple areas. One is planning. Okay, when we say planning, there are two tools, Jira and Pivotal. Major of the industry follows Jira. Sorry. Okay, but along with Jira, Pivotal, there are few more tools as well. But I'll give you the industry leaders here. I'm listing only industry leaders. Okay. Then see, there is no this matrix is actually vertical, not horizontal. Okay. So planning, we have two tools, Jira and Pivotal. When it comes to SCM tool, okay, source repository management and all. Okay, configuration management and the repository. This is the source code management, SCM tool. Source code, you have SVN. Now, majorly used Git for all open sources like Java, Python, and all. We majorly go with Git, GitLab or GitHub or Bitbucket or what, but his parent is Git. Okay, then VSTS. Then we have clear case like tools. So there are many, but market leader here is Git and SVN. Okay. Then we come to build tool. Build can be done through, here market leader is Maven. Okay, most of builds today are Maven based. Few of them are Ant based. Along with that, we have Make, Rake. Now, for especially for front end like technologies where Angular and all we use, we go for NPM and MS builds. Okay, so these are the build tools. Then see, now we have planned through Jira, then source codes managed through ski, SCM tools. Then we have build tools to build whatever the change you have done. Now you may have cloud where you may go push this code. So to cloud, we have, of course, everyone knows AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM. These are the market leaders. Then we do have Oracle, VMware and all. But these four are the market leaders now. Then CI/CD tool, continuous integration, continuous delivery. Jenkins, market leader, majoritarily used. Then there are few customers we go with Bamboo, TeamCity, VSTS, RLM, and Urban Code. But if you are knowing Jenkins, you cover 90% is what I can claim. Then when you go for testing tools, like see, you have done the build, you have to deploy it, and deploy, you need to test it to certify it, correct? To certify it, we need to have test suits done. So test suits can be generated through Selenium, JUnit, Robot Framework, JMeter, Load Runner, like Mockito, all those things are there. So many tools. Selenium, JUnit, or JMeter, Load Runner are mainly utilized based on different requirements, like whether you need a load test, whether you need a performance test, whether you need a unit test, and all that. Okay, then configuration management tools. For configuration management, Puppet, Chef, Ansible are widely used. Okay, based on what my cloud infrastructure is, whether I have built in my own VPC. So if you have your private VPC, private data center, we probably go with Puppet. But if I have AWS, I may go with Chef or Ansible. Okay, these are the choices and the combinations of technology what I have. Whether I have a cloud, whether I have a private data center, whether I am using Jenkins, whether I am using any testing tool, what I am using. So it goes with the combinations. Okay, then Salt, Vagrant, CF Engine, all these are the configuration management tools. Then we have monitoring tools. Here, if you see Splunk is a market leader, but very costly tool. Okay, the example I gave is Kibana, which is open source. That is also a monitoring tool. Then Nagios and Zabbix are also there. Okay, but Splunk is a market leader, I can say. Okay, so these all are the different tools at different levels. So if you go for planning, you may go with one source code management, build tools, cloud, CI/CD, then test tools, configuration management tool, and the monitoring tools. If I implement all this, I can make sure that I'll have a major proper coordination and the collaboration between my ops team and dev team. Okay. So that's all with the DevOps. Anyone has any questions, do let me know.
Thank you, sir. Students, please post the question in the chat box.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah, the question is like in Agile, we are talking about shift left approach. That means early testing, right?
correct.
Yeah, and in DevOps, we are going to have both shift left and shift right. So can you elaborate on more on this using a business use case, or maybe from your experience, what have you seen? What are the advantages of having both the approaches?
Okay. See, shift left is always required. See, because that is majorly involved or specific to what changes I have done, right? Which is kind of, you can say it is very specific to what release is targeted to, correct?
Yes, yes.
Why shift right is needed now? Okay, see, I have done simple example. I have told, like, I have done one API which is working very fine, and shift left tell me that okay, your results are expected, correct? But that API was never used or utilized directly. It has some cascaded API. Endpoint is something else which is using this API. Okay, and this API response time was suppose it is taking around 10 seconds. Okay, but my parent API is supposed to respond within 12 seconds. Okay, 12 seconds is his timeout value. Now, one of tasks which I have newly implemented was working completely fine, but it is not performing as expected. Okay, that never get captured in test left. You have to do it on prod replica and make sure that it is working perfectly with all my entire call stack. So such performance testing with respect to infrastructure and all are never covered in left test, right? Test left. Whereas when you go, but when you want to be in productionize, it has to be verified in test right as well. And those changes will definitely make lot of impact on our deliverables. Does that answer your question?
So you mean to say that all non-functional aspects can be best tested using the shift left right approach?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
That is more focused over non-functional and
Yeah.
operational area, whereas shift left is always focused to your what new changes, basically what changes, right?
Features.
It never cover that non-functional area.
Okay. Thank you. I hope the students also understood the question what I've asked, because they are still they have not started with testing in the syllabus. So maybe in the coming semesters or in the future when they learn, they will come across shift left and shift right. So that maybe it will be helpful for them.
Yeah, that is why I have never used a very specific terminology. I just use functional, non-functional kind of.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Amol sir, there is one question. What are certifications related to DevOps?
Certification, there is nothing but specific to DevOps. What you need to do is something related to this.
Okay. So I hope Pranita must have got her answer. Okay. Sir, other two questions which are posted, I think you've already covered, like what are the core benefits of DevOps and how DevOps is different from Agile. So I think that you'd already covered in your presentation, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, students? Okay, sir, I have one question. Sir, like now, as you said that this Git and Jenkins, which are mostly used tools. So like if a person who is unknown to this technology, how can online learning facilitate to learn these tools, sir? Like, are there any online learning platforms?
Yeah, I'll come to that. These whatever tools I have listed here, except Splunk like thing, okay, which are very highly costly tools. So, you may not able to take a hands-on directly, but rest of almost 90% of tools listed here are open source, freely available, and their documentation is very extensive. If you go to their particular website and see their docs, it's very extensive and very easy. And all these tools are evolved in last, except few like SVN and Jira, rest all are like evolved in last 3-4 years. Okay, and they are here to make our life so easy, and their documentation is so extensive that you never feel to have any training, basically, if you really go to the documents. Okay, and there is another way also. If I don't want to play with the documentation, okay, you go to Udemy and just filter by free courses. Okay, that will give you basics of all these tools. Every tool has, startup kit is free in Udemy as well. Okay, even you go to YouTube and search for any tutors, there are so many tutors available for every single tool.
Okay. Okay, fine, sir.
But best way is documentation. Since
Okay.
these are all open source, documentation is very extensive.
And sir, prerequisite would be like you should have the basics of software engineering, right? Software development life cycle.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So any more questions, students?
So the future is going to be agile DevOps, like how it is going to be?
Now it is SecDevOps.
Okay. What is that? Can you just elaborate like what?
Here, till now we have talked about non-operational, right? But in non-operational, there is something called security as well, right? Which we have not covered here.
Okay, so that is security DevOps is SecDevOps. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now here we have collaborated. See, Agile collaborated our product owners and developers. Okay. Now DevOps collaborated developers and our operation teams. And SecDevOps, what it does is it collaborates between developer, ops team, and security team. Security is another team in every organization. And on every release, they do certify. We have every code when we release it, we have to go through SAX parsing. We have to go with check marks because your code deals with user data, which is PII information, users card information, that is PCI information. So everyone has their own standards to follow. You have, whenever you code it, that code has compliance to my PCI standards, my PII standards, which are worldwide specified, right? So if my code is violating that, then my organization may get punished if it get caught. Okay, and it should not happen. Not to happen, we have multiple tools like SOX parsing. You can go with this terminologies, you will get to know. Then you have check marks, and all those tools will make sure that my code is not my code is compliance to all these standards, and then they allow you to do this, deploy this. Okay, one thing. Second, when I deploy it, I do need to see, for suppose it's an e-commerce site, there are a lot of hacking kind of thing happens, right? So there is a cross-site testing also happens, like what all information I am passing through my request data, can I tap that? What all information are there whenever I am communicating? Are those communication are secured enough? Are those are OAuth specified, where my information is, where my data is, whether it is in text in my payload all the time, whether it is kept at some central layer and not on the payload, and if it is at central layer, how we handshake it with my external, my end point, basically when it goes to the end customer, like front end. Okay, so there are a lot of layers to make this data more secure. Okay, and that has been implemented, but hackers will always there to break it, right? So the cross-site testing and everything is also a part of SecDevOps.
Okay, sir. And sir, I have one more question. Like TCS has launched one software product called Gile. So is it having DevOps inbuilt with that? DevOps
Gile.
tools? Yeah, Gile. Actually, I had attended a webinar on Gile actually, so I asked you.
No, I am not aware of that tool.
Okay. Okay. So I hope any more questions? So thank you, sir, for a very comprehensive and detailed session on DevOps. Now I request Vandana ma'am to share the highlights of today's session.
Amol sir, stop your screen sharing, please.
Sure.
Vandana ma'am?
Yeah. Am I audible now? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thanks, Amol. It's really very informative session. Students, I'm sure about you understand about what is DevOps and why we need DevOps, and understand how to address delivery challenges using DevOps. And DevOps is integration targets, product delivery, quality testing, feature development, and maintenance. Now, from today's session, we learn, or as a takeaway, we get how Agile and DevOps connected, when to adopt and when to not adopt DevOps. So thanks, Amol. for brief introduction of common tools used in a DevOps process like Jenkins, Bamboos, VSTS, etc. So thanks all. Over to Pooja Kalange.
Pooja ma'am, you are on mute.
Okay, students, you can see the link which is displayed on the screen. Shortly, it will be displayed by Yogesh sir. You have to fill the feedback of today's session. Also, the link is being posted in the chat box as well. Okay. So I would like to thank the organizers and the committee and the faculty members for helping us in arranging this seminar. More than 450 plus students from 50 plus universities have registered for this webinar 2020, Webathon 2020. I would also have I would also thank Amol Dhanpalwar sir for sparing his valuable time with us and just sharing his insights on this DevOps. So thank you. Thank you one and all, and have a great day ahead.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for calling me and giving me a chance to share some knowledge with you all. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you faculty members, thank you students, and thank you organizers.